Howdy y'all, this is Slug. Metro 2033 is a game based out of the Ukrainian game studio 4A. The novel for which Metro 2033 is based off of is written by Dmitry Glukhovsky. This game depicts a bleak future where biological warfare Armageddon has started and doomed the former Soviet Union and concurrently Russia. The Kremlin was not ready for such warfare despite a history of committing to an arms race with the rest of the world for nuclear weapons and biological weapons. Moscow and Russia as a whole became covered in toxic snow, causing the death of most wildlife and making the world inhabitable, thus only leaving the creatures that became mutated enough to survive such an environment, alongside the humans left over who were forced to live inside the metros of old Moscow. Metro 2033 immediately lends itself to be a pretty obvious depiction of the horrors of not just biological warfare, nuclear warfare, or any type of militant creations in effort to square up with the advances of the rest of the world, yet rather it depicts itself to be a criticism of Russia's consistent meddling in proxy wars within the Middle East and other regions, for which the conflict is hinted to have started within the game's canon, and further military expeditions inside the former Soviet Union. It's not a surprise that the game studio 4A came to produce such a game alongside the help of the Russian author Glukhovsky. Ukraine has been well documented and have been a constant torn state from where the west of the Dnieper River and the east are culturally and politically separated. The east of Ukraine, typically ethnically Russian, being more pro-Kremlin, hence the island of Crimea being annexed in 2014, virtually being uncontested by eastern Ukraine, and attempting to pose up pro-Russian politicians to lead Ukraine. Whilst Western Ukraine, typically ethnically Ukrainian, has been consistently trying to do the opposite, being far more pro-West and pro-NATO in fashion. The book was written in 2002, and the game launched in 2010. Both of these events were before the forced annexation of Crimea, or the current ongoing invasion of Ukraine by Russia. However, that's not to say that the political discussion around the criticisms that both Glukhovsky and 4A Games are not important to discuss. Glukhovsky himself, quote, has been sentenced to 8 years in prison after being found guilty of spreading false information, as it was banned to criticize the invasion by the Russian government of Ukraine, hence why the Russian state is saying he was spreading false accusations about the Russian military and online posts, unquote. This is according to the American press, linked to the article below. Glukhovsky is a journalist and an author who has been consistently critical of the Kremlin despite being a Russian national himself. He's currently living abroad, so he's walking free with the information we've been given, despite the sentence from the Russian state. Political extremism plagues not just the world of Metro 2033, but of course that of the real world surrounding the game's creations. There are multiple factions and groups that inhabit the metro system of Moscow, yet the ones that will be focused on today are that of the Fourth Reich and the Red Line. Let's start with the Fourth Reich. The neo-Nazi group, the Fourth Reich, is being led by its titular leader, the Führer, who is constantly combative to anyone that doesn't believe in the group's thoughts of genetic purity. Unlike that of the German Third Reich, it's not about Aryan purity. To be a true Russian in their eyes, one must be free of genetic deformities no matter how small. Even something as simple as having a missing finger or a slightly larger than normal head could lead to a death sentence. We see in the game that the torture of the Fourth Reich's POWs is something that is feared from both the communist Red Line and nearly all civilized factions. The Fourth Reich have no allies, and they also have not incorporated any major stations in the metro. They stand alone, brainwashed by the doctrines of their leader, militant to the very end. This is very much a literal depiction of what fascism can be. This fascism is that of a cultural and political lead being controlled by a militant state and enforced with an iron fist. The Führer in Metro 2033 could be modeled after Adolf Hitler's own reign during Nazi Germany. The Red Line is the Communist Party that is immensely more powerful than that of its fascist counterpart, and is allied with some of the line's stations, and specifically that of the trading alliance of Haza and other hubs. Because of their immense population to work with, they have the ability to go against their more technologically advanced rival of the Fourth Reich. This echoes that of World War II, where a very similar military situation was present. During World War II, Russia had much more conscripts to work with in comparison to that of Germany, yet was far less advanced when it came to their own military innovations. The Red Line desires to be that of the same power of the Soviet Union before it collapsed. Therefore, their aggressive and deadly ways of achieving this goal are equally demonized in the story of Metro 2033. Neo-Nazism and pro-communist sympathizers are both still present in the likes of Russia and Ukraine today in real life. Of course, being a fascist in Russia is banned, and being a part of the Communist Party in Ukraine is also banned. Yet political extremism in the names of both the far right and the far left are something that is inescapable in Ukraine and Russia to this day. Metro 2033 shows us that even after the destruction of society and humanity as we know it, there will always be people willing to follow aggressively violent ideologies in order to maintain what they see as a sense of order. In the real world, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it's not like former Soviet politicians disappeared. From Belarus to Kazakhstan, the old guard of the Communist Party still exists and has power to this day. Fascism also still exists and is even more prevalent in that of the Caucasus regions, particularly Armenia and Azerbaijan. Committing to consistent warfare and struggling for power while damning the same people that are fighting for you, it's a dark stain on the world of Metro 2033 and the world we live in. The Metro line is plagued with anomalies, mutants, disease, and horror, yet despite all this, there's still the brainwashed few obsessed with ideological purity, not realizing they're dooming themselves just as much as their forefathers have doomed them before. The leaders of these factions are old enough to have seen the world crumble and be forced to live like rats, yet they are content to rip and tear the carcass of the dying world of Moscow. Metro 2033 is a dystopian world reflecting on the bleak reality we live in, and it has so much to say that I can't even fit in a single video for now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and leave a comment if you want more, or feel free to disagree or agree. It's alright. This has been Slug on Slug's 2 Cents. Thanks for watching.